when you're practicing good door behavior with your dogs, one of the most important things you need to do is do it every day. Now, I don't know about you, but people don't come to my door every day. So what you want to do is start with nobody at your door. When people come to the door, it's super exciting, and so the dogs lose their little minds, and that's not a good time to train, because, or at least not a good time to start training, because they're already out of their heads with excitement. Really, the best time to start training is when there's nobody at the door anyway. So what you do is you walk over to something wooden, anything in your house, and you knock on it. Now, if your dogs are really reactive to the door, sometimes that alone will make them take off to the door and start barking. I like it when my dogs bark once or twice at the door, or 12 times, as long as they stop when I tell them to. I live alone. I want people outside the door to know I have dogs, and it's really good for me because oftentimes I don't hear somebody at the door and I don't have a doorbell. So I like my dogs to bark a few times. This means that if I knock and they start barking, rather than tell them to stop, I'm going to say, okay, thank you, or I've got it, or I heard you, or that was the TV, or you can stop now, whatever I want to say, or it's Quinn, whatever it is I want to say. It does not have to be the same thing every time. It's just verbalizing so that they know you heard them, you're acknowledging that you heard them, and they can stop barking now. Let's be honest, most dogs at that point are not going to stop barking. So once I've said, okay, thank you, and they continue to bark, I'm going to start hissing. I'm going to go grab whatever consequence works best in this scenario. Probably that is a squirt bottle. Okay, that was adorable. Probably that is a squirt bottle, or it's like a can of pennies. I'm going through a lot of pill bottles right now with my back, so I'm using little pill bottles with rocks in them. Something loud. Dogs hear noises better than they hear words. So first of all, my noise consequence, the thing that lets my dogs know you are about to be in trouble, is that I hiss. I'm not going to do it right now because all the dogs will look at me like, but what did we do? And I don't want them to really think they're in trouble. So I hiss. A lot of people, like trainers on TV shows, they almost all... She's stealing the spotlight here. Most trainers have some kind of noise. Sometimes it's a hiss, sometimes it's a kind of a noise, sometimes it's like an or a hey. Hey is not really a noise, but so you want to make a noise. Now, dogs notice noises from people better than they notice words, including no and their own name. Sorry, my brain is a little slow this morning still. But they're going to notice noise from an object even more. This is why I like my little pill bottles with the rattlers in them. They work really pretty well. Feeling okay there, buddy? So, I knock on some wood. The dogs start barking. I say, okay, I got it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I got it. If they don't stop, I personally am going to start to hiss. I'm going to keep hissing until I get my real consequence, like my squirt bottle or my thing of rocks. And then I'm going to, if I have a squirt bottle, squirt them until they circle away from the door and start barking. Stop barking. Or I'm going to grab my rocks, I'm going to shake them, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to throw them on the ground near the door, not at the dogs. And usually that bang right nearby will make them go, oh my God, and then they'll circle away. They don't have to leave the area. They don't have to do the normal doggy apology where the tail dips momentarily. I just need them to walk away from the door briefly. At that point, they typically stop barking. If they do not stop barking, or if they go to somewhere else in the house and continue to bark, I am going to follow through with my next step, which is, ironically, not to tell them they're being naughty, but to call them back to the door and ask them to sit. Typically, that will also stop the barking. The reason I start with a consequence and then end with a sit is because when they're in that barking frenzy at the door, they're not going to hear me ask them to sit. Some dogs will. Some dogs you grab a treat and stick it in their nose and they'll be like, oh, okay, in which case, skip straight to that. But a lot of dogs, they couldn't care less. The door is so much more exciting than a treat that they will just keep going. So if I put in a consequence first, and then add in, now come here and sit, even if you're still barking, the consequence has broken that extreme frenzy, and then they'll be able to hear me ask them to come over and sit, right? Now, my dogs are not going to bark at the door because they all know that nothing came to the door, it was just me knocking. Very quickly, you too will get to this point, and then you're going to think, now what do we do? That's what we want to happen. And we still want to practice at that point. Hi, Willa Willa. So here's what you're going to do. I'm going to knock at something wooden. My dogs basically ignore it because they know it's not the door. I'm now going to come over here to the door. I'm going to call them over. Willa, Doc, Lily. And look, Willa was like, I'm here because I'm cute already and I'm sitting. She's gotten the idea. Sit. Oh, although now she's up and begging. Good girl. Good boy. Good girl. Now, Doc got up to chase his treat. Willa got up because she's hoping for another one. Lily stayed put. Lily gets another treat. Okay. I'm going to ask these two to sit again. Sit. Thank you. Sit. Good boy. What good? Now, since she broke, he gets his treat first. Willa. Sit. Thank you. Sit. Thank you. So one of the things that she's learning here is that getting up to get your treat is going to have it taken away. You have to sit back down. This starts extending how long they're willing to sit. Good girl, Lily. Good boy, Doc. Willa, sit. Good. You only ever focus on one dog at a time to get them to do what you want, assuming you have multiple dogs. Because if I... Lily, why don't you back up so your feet stop sliding? Come here, Lily. Come over here. Come here. Come here, Lily. If I were to try and get all three of them to sit at the same time, and they were all just beginning, and I was going, sit, 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 wait, you, come back here, I would completely fail. So I don't do that. I'm going to focus on one dog and get them to sit and reward it, and then I'm going to focus on the next dog. And if that first dog gets up, they got up. I'm still focused on the next dog. Okay? Willa, come away from the door, please. Good girl. Sit, sit, sit. Thank you. She remains seated. Real quick before she stands up, I'm going to give her another one so that she gets the idea. And she's still seated. I'm going to give her another one so that she understands, yes, if you remain up, I dropped it, but she's eating it. It worked out. Oh, see, I screwed up. He stood up to get that treat. I should have taken it away. Now, he knows enough that, I was about to say he knows enough that he sat right back down, but clearly I lied. You heard just that I made a noise. It's not my hissing noise. You can make a lot of different noises. It doesn't matter. Willa, sit. Thank you. Now, in point of fact, the place Willa is sitting, she's not quite in the path of the door, but she is pretty darn close. I'm sorry, Lily, you're kind of getting ignored. As the door swings open, she's going to think, oh God, it might hit me. And she's going to stand up to move. So I'm actually going to ask her to move. Willa, good girl. Doc, sit. Thank you. Willa, come here. Good. Sit. Good girl. I have not said stay because Willa does not know that very well. Good boy. Good girl. All right. Stay. Hello. Get back. Now everybody's going to move because Doc's running them all over. Sit. Sit. Willa, sit. I know, he practically trampled you to horrors. Everybody else gets a treat before Doc because I'm annoyed with him. Sit. Stay. 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 Hello, person. Sit. So normally, actually, I was going to say, clearly I have not done this enough with Doc. But normally what I'm telling him is to go sit in his chair because he gets so excited. Stay. Willa, sit. Good girl. She keeps running off so Doc won't trample her. So she's now getting farther and farther from the door, but that's fine too. Stay. Stay. Now, since every other time when I've had a high-pitched voice, he's leapt up and tried to run out the door, I'm not going to have a high-pitched voice. I'm going to speak in a quieter tone of voice. Hello, stranger at the door. Notice I am now looking out the door. What most people do when they practice this is they do this. Hello, stranger out the door. The problem is that when there's actually a person, no, you may not pick it up. Sit. Thank you. Good girl. I dropped a piece and she came over to get it, but I want her learning that no matter how exciting it is, she has to stay. So, let's see, where was I? Stranger out the door, lowered my voice. Sit. Thank you. Stay. I have no idea what I was gonna say. Guests. So if you always practice looking at your dogs, then when there's actually somebody at the door and you do get them to sit, and then you look out the door, they're going to assume that's a release, that they can now go where you're looking. Because before they've always been where you're looking. And then of course once they get up to start going, they realize there's a guest and off they go. So this is your basic training the dogs to be well behaved at the door. And then you repeat it. As you go, they're gonna get a lot quicker at this. This took a really long time because while Willa is getting pretty good at the door and she's not running out the door, we really have only just started. Hey kiddo, sit at the door while I open it and check things out. And essentially she's learning to stay at the same time because she's having to figure out that, if I get up to say, give me another treat, aren't I cute? I'm not gonna get my treat. I'm only gonna get it if I stay put. Now I've run out of treats, but she has still remained in that sit. I know, now she broke. I was gonna say that I know if I walk past her to get the treats, she's gonna break. So often what I will do in this scenario is just go over and be like, oh, you're the best dog ever, yay! It won't take very long before you knock on some piece of wood in the house and you walk to the door and the dogs see you head to the door and they come running over and plop their little butts down. Okay, where's our treat? Before that's happened, but especially once that has happened, then you have dogs that are going to be dramatically better behaved when you do have a guest around. Because now they understand, they know, and it's become a habit what they're supposed to do when you open the door. Even if you open the door and say, hello, stranger at the door. You might have to stop your dog like that. Sit, please. Thank you. Hello, stranger at the door. Oh, that was so much better. You broke your sit, but I will just reward you anyway because that was so much better. Oh my gosh. Hi, sweet girl. Yeah, I know. Yay, everybody's happy. That was so much fun. Now you don't have, you'll notice this video at this point is probably like 7 minutes long. It's way too long. You don't have to go through all of this every single time. It will not take you 7 minutes. It will take you, I don't know, cut to the part of the video where I was trying to get them all to sit. If you have 3 dogs, it'll take you that long the first time, maybe a little bit longer. The second time you do it, or if you only have 1 dog, it'll be a fraction of that amount of time. And I don't do this, if I did this 5 times in a row, 3 times in a row, twice in a row, they would learn it even quicker. I tend to do it once every other day because I'm really lousy about remembering to do these things. So do it more often than that. I did it with Cash and with Lily, and both of them became perfect at the door. I've had Doc for 6 years now, and it's only in the past year that I've started saying, okay, you have to be good at the door, because I've been a lot busier than I was 15 years ago. So, do what you can when you can. I do believe that's everything. When you do have a guest come in and your dogs realize, oh my God, or when you have a guest knock at the door, let me back up. I'm gonna go from knocking here to knocking at the door or something else that sounds like it, to having, if I do live with somebody, I will ask them to come knock at the door so that I can fake it. But when you get to, I might even call a neighbor and be like, hey, could you come knock on my door? You can totally ding dong ditch, that's fine. Just so that I have the practice of somebody else being at the door. I have been known when Amazon guys come by, if I actually see the truck, I'll open my window and say, hey, could you knock at my door? I'm training my dogs. And they generally laugh and are like, yeah, sure, and they knock and walk away. And that's perfect. Or they go to drop off the package and my dogs go nuts anyway. So we practice at the door right then while the guy is already driving away. It's perfect. when you get to a point where they're doing really well, and now you have, or even a point where they're doing iffy, and now you have an actual guest at the door, and the dogs suddenly lose their little minds because they know the difference. They even know the difference of Amazon guy dropped off a package and knocked, and there's not going to be anybody out there when we open the door. It's not as exciting as if there's actual guests at the door. So when that happens, one of the really difficult things that changes the entire way we do it is that we feel like, oh my God, I have to get the door open. There's somebody waiting. There's this subconscious anxiety about, hurry up and do this, dogs. And the second you have that hurry up and do this, dogs, the way you ask them to do it changes, your patience about it changes, you start jumping the gun and you skip a step and open the door before the dogs are really like, oh yeah, we're paying attention here. So when you have a real guest at the door, here's what you do. Give me a second, I'm training my dogs. Was that loud, guys? Everybody in the world will be happy to give you that second. They will also probably take 6 steps back if they don't know your dogs. They don't know if you're training them just not to bark, or if you're training them to be attack dogs, or if you're trying to stop them from being attack dogs. Either way, everybody is happy to give you that time to train the dogs because they want you to train your dogs. They don't want to worry about whether or not they're going to get jumped on because the dogs are friendly or bitten because the dogs are not. They're going to be out there going, oh yeah, train your dogs. Please train your dogs. In fact, oftentimes I will incorporate that shout even when there's nobody at the door and I'm just practicing, just so it's yet another thing that's familiar to the dogs. Now that Lily has decided to take center stage, I think that's the cue that we need to stop. Now, go practice the door thing. If you can manage it at least once every other day, you will see improvement. Promise. Might just be slow. Choo, 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 choo. Do a little bit.